Hello again. I always adjust my mic at the beginning of every video because I kind of need to. Welcome to the rantings and ravings of Extra Preparation. Today we are going to be talking about Johann Brahms Symphony Number 4. I hold up the book that I always talk about to bring up this excerpt, the 100 excerpts for bass trombone. They should sponsor me, or Doug should sponsor me. No. We're going to talk about Brahms 4 though, the chorale that happens at the fourth movement. As with many of his symphonies, he always throws a chorale in there for the trombones. A1. Let's talk about Johann Brahms for a quick second, as we always do. Quick talk about his biography. Johann Brahms was born May 7th, 1833, and he died April 3rd, 1897. He was a German composer, pianist, conductor during the Romantic period. He was born in Hamburg into a Lutheran family. Blah blah blah. Very, very, very nice upbringing for music. Yes. The thing about Brahms that I find interesting personally is his music is really good, mainly because he did his best to replicate the older German composers. He studied Bach and Beethoven, Mozart, and even Wagner, and it came down, and he wanted to replicate that in form and in academic scrutiny and all that. And he made some of the best pieces of music ever written. So his fourth symphony in E minor, I think the first time I've ever referred to a key during these things, this is his last symphony. He worked on this piece in Mutzschlag. I can't speak German. So he finished this piece in 1804 in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. A year after completing his third symphony. I like how it sounds like I learned this information the first time. It premiered October 25th, 1885 in Meiningen, Germany. And it kind of follows a very, I would imagine, slightly standard symphony form with an allegro. With a sonata form, actually, excuse me. A very slow section with A, B, some minuetto, another allegro, which would seem to be about around, excuse me as I look over at it, mini sonata form, sonata rondo maybe, and then finally another theme and variations. So, one of those just great pieces, a great piece of music all around. Because I want to quickly check through some of my other notes on this. Yeah, no, we're good. Okay. Well, if we look at the score, as we always do with these videos, this is my last video anyway, we are going to try to glean some performance aspects that he's written down for us that we need to pay attention to. Probably gain just a bit. Oops, that high. And what does we want to figure out what he wants. So when we first glance, we see a lot of pianissimo, pianissimo, and kind of just decrescendos, one big crescendo fairly early on. And so we can mainly glean from this that it's soft, right? Where it's a chorale. We want to sound nice and pretty and beautiful. And then there's this forte section that goes into fortissimo, and it comes right over from us. So we kind of want this to be a bit of a surprise, and it should be a completely defining factor between these two things. One's a little bit loud, and the other one's really soft and dainty. Not dainty, but soft and nice and pretty. We also kind of see a very confusing marking, at least in my opinion. I'm not a huge fan of it. It is slurred staccato notes over half notes. So what I'm gleaning from that, I think he wants us to re-articulate the notes that are tied and slurred even. So there's separation, but not that much. It's like quasi-articulated. So I'm not a huge fan of it. I would rather he just writes two tenuto marks over the notes. But it still sounds fine, I guess. And then there's a couple notes that have staccato markings. They're mainly quarter notes and they're pickups, like the E natural at 123, the last beat. And I believe there's one more. Nope, I am incorrect. There's one staccato that's like that, and every other staccato is referring to these longer connected notes. So, excuse me. So, there's not a whole lot, and this is a section excerpt anyway. You're not really. This is when you become the team player. like a lot of extras to the trombone, you gotta be able to play with the team. If you can't play with the team, you're not really gonna be on the team, right? Yeah, but I'm whatever. So there's really rarely a point where you're gonna be a soloist. There's only one section where being a soloist is kind of okay. There's at measure 122, there's a 3-note thing that happens, and you're the only one that does it as the bass trombonist. And there's a couple times where you're sorry, I'm trying to like keep my mind. The staccato E natural is also by yourself. It's kind of a solo, but it's still got to be very soft spoken. You're not trying to cause too much attention. So when we're talking about interpretations, I'm being honest. As I say with quite a few excerpts, there's not too much to go with. There's wrong ways and there's right ways. And I think we're going to cover the right way first, and we can cover some wrong ways. And they're not entirely different from each other either. So I'd say the right way to do it is to play each of these really connected, and to think with great tone, pretty basic stuff, right? And kind of try to replicate a smaller horn. You're not really during Brahms' time, it was not uncommon, or it wasn't common to have a .568 bore or a .547. A lot of the horns that we played on the Brahms time was small altos, small bore tenors, and like one kind of sort of large bore tenor that for bass trombonists. So to keep that in mind, we're not looking for a big sound, which is one of the wrong ways you can perform it. You can perform the forte section with this big, modern bass trombone sound, and you're immediately going to get cut off because nobody wants that. It's not what Brahms wants. It's not what Brahms was writing for. It's not really what people think and people want to listen to. I keep saying that in my videos, but it's really important. Playing a tune, right? Playing with really good time. Yeah, you're like the only things really happening in terms of the chorale, and you're like the most important part, but you can't decide to go off on your own even as a section, so there's really no room for rubato for this. Paying attention to note length, keeping those block notes. You don't want to get out of the way, but you don't want to you want to be a little bit out of the way in terms that way some of those moving notes can play, but you don't want to be so soft that it's hard to hear you. So basics, we're going for super connected, super long, very long, and big breaks the sound. You don't want to be too loud. You want to replicate a small bore kind of horn, and we're trying to replicate, and it's my final remark, replicate a march in the distance, or a kind of, we're chorale from a distance. We're not necessarily soft, we're just far away. I hope that's helpful. Some wrong ways to do it is to articulate these staccato slur things as separate notes. You can hear it sometimes in some recordings, and they're not great recordings, that they're they seem to play it as two defined moments in time, and this is really one. It's a moment in time. It's a moment of music in time with a gray area in the middle of it. So we don't want to like da 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 and so on. You want them all to be connected. Da 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 da. And you still want to be soft. Your softs can obviously be. You don't want to be so soft that you can't play, but you don't want to be so. You don't want to be so loud it's not soft. And as a final remark for like the wrong way to do it, and these will basically be also my 3 ways of playing it. When you hit forte, is not the time to be the bass trombonist that everybody knows. It's not time to be loud. You're really kind of just going for a nice big projecting sound, I think. Sometimes we lose that, and I hope that I can replicate that today. My face is definitely a little bit tired. Doing your best to not overblow this section as best you can. You still want a different section. You want a difference in energy, not a difference in volume, per se. And then obviously you have this forzando at the end, where it has decrescendo. That's the moment you gotta make it come to an end. Even though Chord doesn't sound like an ending. Just bum bum. Just calm down, and then that'll be over. Okay, so I'm going to do those 3 ways. The plan is to do one with everything the correct way, super connected, soft, not too soft. The loud section is not going to be super loud. And the second time will be everything's articulated, like kind of hard, like the wrong articulations, with everything being separated in their own moments in time. And the last one will be where the forte and the fortissimo are just killing it. Like I'm not going to talk like Wagner, obviously, like Wagner killing it, but just like if Brahms were hearing it, he'd die before the symphony got done. Like, that's the idea. Thank you for listening to my rantings and ravings. This is the 6th installment of these excerpt videos, and so thank you for watching.